9 Stand-Up Accelerator workshop recap. July 26th. Man, it's like in the hundreds in Texas. Once again, trying to burn us off the planet because it doesn't think we fit down in Texas. Fun week. 15 workshoppers. Summer is usually slower for everything. Apparently that includes attendance at the workshop. 2 new people. Gary, who I think is from Australia, didn't talk much. Or I didn't give him a chance to talk much. And then a girl, I can't remember her name at the moment. But we start out with career talk. We mentioned that Rock is producing a new game show. That's sort of a recreation of the old What's My Line show, but using stand-ups, where he interviews people, finds out about their life, and they basically lie to the comics, and the comics have to figure out who's lying, that kind of stuff. I think I got it. That's something like that. And I also asked right at the beginning, I asked everybody's thoughts on evaluating the speed of their careers currently. Like, were they getting enough G-force from the acceleration? And I think everybody agreed that it's a slow go. Like in stand-up, it's a slow grow. So accelerating forward can be tricky. And that led me into something that I'm starting, which is I'm going to produce stand-ups as part of the Stand-Up Accelerator. So for people who if they want to jump into the producing of stand-ups, I have to name it still, I'll let you in, and I'll produce anybody that comes to the Accelerator, anybody that wants to get into the process of the Accelerator. What that actually means is that I'm going to lightly produce you for free. The stand-up career of anybody, that wants to move faster. The basis behind this is that most people do self-building in stand-up. They figure it all out on their own. They get as far as they can on their own. They pick up pieces here and there, but it's a self-starter, self-built business. Hollywood does not do that. If you're going to be a Hollywood process, you jump into a team of professionals who are all good at their jobs, and they push forward a single show or a single person. And the model becomes all this talent behind you and around you doing things that you may not be good at, you don't have time for, while you concentrate on being the talent. And that process doesn't make sense as much in stand-up because there's not as much money in stand-up. And so it's really hard to pay people to do that. But you can do a full team. Like literally, I worked on TV shows that had 100 plus people all working every day to produce 90 minutes of TV. But in stand-up, you need a bare bones team to start. You need talent, which will be you, the person going up on stage. You need a producer, which is the person that organizes all the work going on around that talent and makes executive decisions or makes co-executive decisions with the talent. You need a director, and you need a head writer. Usually the head writer is fielding other writers, but in this process, they would also write. So talent, producer, director, head writer. And you're generally doing those on your own, but I'm going to do some of that for you or with you. And all that really means is that I'll throw some script people's way. I'll work with them on their script. I have very set ideas about what goes into stand-up, very set structures of script, performance, character, communication, getting your psyche correct, doing career things like networking, all that kind of stuff. And all of those can be produced, which means you don't have to do them on your own. The first thing and the fastest and the easiest for me is helping people with their script. So take the sort of meandering, kind of undercooked script that most people start with and cooking it really fast. And then your job becomes to go up on open mics, go up on book shows and develop that material, or to sit in your room and practice and rehearse that material, or to take it out to other comics and rehearse that material. So I will help people with some of that, and I'll help with some directing about making sure that you're doing this in a way that's actually bringing the material to life. I was working on some of that in the workshop this week, and producing. So some idea of like, is this all working? Is this moving towards something that's going to get you where you want to go? And that can be locally, get you raised up in the scene, could get you on Kill Tony with a great minute and a great interview. It could be doing better, at book shows and things like that. But just to try to give people more help, because I think that's always the idea behind the Stand-Up Accelerator in general. And I've seen it work. I've done this with people who've become major Hollywood people. Retta is a good example. Retta took my workshop right out of college at Duke University. And I wrote her a bunch of material. And she's so good on stage, so likable, such a powerhouse character and presence. She took that material and instantly went out and started making money with it on the college circuit, which is lucrative. She literally said once in an interview that she had to take a pay cut to come off the stand up road of doing colleges to be a cast member on Parks and Rec. So think about that. So the idea is to the same thing, progress you faster, get you into the game, give you actual assets that can get you places. And that's always, by the way, the first thing I look at as a producer. I lay out your assets, your liabilities, and your deficits. What do you do really well? What are you, an interesting character? Do you have a quirky delivery? Are you a good writer? All these different things that could be assets. And then liabilities, what are you doing that's getting in your own way? I have a bunch of people who come through the workshop who have some type of delivery liability. They talk too fast. They don't hit punch words. They have accent issues where you can't really understand them easily. All those things are on you. It's not on the audience to fight their way through to understand you. It's on you to make sure that you are performing in a way that enhances the comedy. So we'll work on all that stuff. So hit me up if you're interested in that. Get on the email list, send me an email, get in the Facebook private group, send me a chat, and we'll talk about it. Again, it's not going to be a ton of work for me, especially at first, because the reality is, even when I'm working with pro stand-ups and you get new script, it takes a while to develop new script. You have to cook it and make sure all the jokes are great, everything's working in the script. Then you have to memorize it. Then you have to learn how to perform it. So it's hard to do stand-up development fast. So this will generally be, that's why I call it light producing. If we want to put you into a fast producing system, that's a different game. You're going to be working on this just like a TV show, 8, 10, 12 hours a day to make a 1 hour special. And that's different. So yeah, that was a big part of the workshop. And I talked about it quite a bit, more so than I'm going into in here or even in the summary, because there was a lot. The other thing that was a lot is I talked, I'm not going to cover this too much, but I talked about a thread I put up on Threads about the comedy writers colony. It was about stand-up. Basically, I said that the day somebody decided it's okay to bomb at open mics because you're working out new stuff was a bad day for stand-up comedy. And that claim inside there is that when you have no criteria open mics, when you lower the quality of your open mics so that everybody can get up and do whatever they want, I understand that as a concept of artistic freedom. I understand that for a lot of reasons, like why that's attractive. But what it does is it lowers the quality of the show. It lowers the quality of the atmosphere and the hangout, because now you get people up there who aren't really doing any work beforehand. So it's not really creativity going on stage. They're going up with it 10% developed, or they have an idea and then they want to walk through with the audience to develop it. That's forcing the audience to do real work. My perspective is you should do 90% of the work yourself, rehearse it, memorize it, work it, and then go up on an open mic and polish it and find variations in it and find out how to perform it and how to memorize it. But not everybody has that orientation. So anyway, I posted this, and as I kind of figured, stand-ups are easy to tweak, and they went off on me. They went off on the idea. They didn't really understand what I was saying about, I think it's bad for stand-up. Like, I'm not saying I know everything that's great for stand-up. I'm saying this particular thing I've seen for long enough and repeated across enough scenes that I think it lowers stand-up comedy, because now you can't get audience. Real audience members who go to one of those open mics and experience it end up not going back. And they'll tell everybody they're never going to see stand-up again. So it's a real thing to think about. Need to work that out. So we talked about some of that. Then we jumped into the meat, back to the actual purpose of the workshop, which is skill development. We're on our 6th and final week of story. Most of it's turned into us bringing in character script. So far, we've talked about if you want to do stories on stand-up stages, perfectly viable. They still have to be punchline dense, comedy dense, but it's a great structure for doing stand-up. We've laid out plot, characters, details, dialogue, emotions, behaviors of your characters. And this week was turning things into super stimulation. And what that means is every single thing in your story, and this is true for screenplays, TV, everything, ordinary conversation, everything in the story, if you choose to tell it, should be stimulating. And super stimulating is even a better criteria. So if there's a dog in your story for some reason, it should be something like a Rhodesian Ridgeback, which are dogs that have been trained to fight lions and hunt lions. They don't actually fight lions, but they track them as a pack and corner them so that somebody can come and shoot them. How brave. But that's the kind of dog, if you mention that, oh yeah, this dog over here, this one right here, he knows how to hunt lions. That makes people go, what? And they'll want to know more about that dog because it's super stimulating. So everything you put into a story should be on that criteria. If it isn't, go back and make it stimulating before you get up and talk about it on stage. Again, you're getting rid of boredom and ordinariness because those kill stories. They're not interesting to listen to. During the performance hour, we jumped up. People got on stage again to bring a character that they had developed within a story. ZZ has chosen to use herself as the character. Last week, she was a witch. This week, she varied that and tried out a hyper-sexualized stand-up / influencer, basically parodying some of the people, in the stand-up scene who do that. And again, there's always been kind of a sexualized plus stand-up sub-theme available in stand-up comedy. There's strippers who do stand-up. Porn stars in LA used to do stand-up. Like it's a sub area, and it's something that ZZ turned into a character. Pat is still working on his evil Filipino stepmom character and is adding more detail. This time he had 3 sections: her appearance, her exposing herself to him, and then trying to poison him. And I think it's growing. I think it's interesting. It still needs a lot of development. So I drug 2 more people on stage, and I said, I want somebody to get up and do Pat's script again. Like, Pat laid it out. Here's 3 sections. Now let's all develop it together without Pat so that it can be just a script. Then Pat can come back up and do it again as the performer. So Devin and Leela both went up and did their version of performing it. And we jumped in and amped up the script, which was an interesting exercise. Finally, Rachel went up and talked about her uncle, who's a hippie and a gun nut, MAGA, I guess. And Charles went up and talked about his mother-in-law, who is also evil. And finally, Nick talked about his murderous grandmother, which I thought was a nice tweak on the evil relation that you have out there. Finally, after everybody went up, I went up and I did the newest evolution of my character stand-up about my evangelical brother. And I've added in lots of act outs, veers, new punchlines, etc. I've developed this now for 4 or 5 weeks, just as it's kind of fun on the side, to see where I can show people, like, you talk about a character, like that particular character. He's somewhat real. My brother's a Christian, but I take it in all these different directions, and it's now about 10 minutes long, and it veers eventually over into just talking about Christianity, which I can talk about for an hour if I wanted to. But it's all based on that character, my interaction with that character. I also talked a little bit about micro cueing as a performance technique, how if you watch me perform, I smile a lot, I punch words, I raise eyebrows, I move a lot, I do all these different things that you learn as a stand-up to cue the audience that, hey, you're supposed to stay interested in me and you're supposed to laugh at this word or find this word particularly useful to think about. So we have to practice some of that. We haven't done a lot of performance training recently, but micro cueing, super important. Finally, to go back to the idea of producing stand-ups, I've started to meet some with Charles, and so about some of his material, and I like Charles a lot. He told me he's done over 500 open mics in the last 6 months here in Austin, which is insane. He's doing like 4 open mics a day, which I don't know how you do that, but more power to him. That's wonderful to work that hard. What I want to see now, if you put him into the producing stand-up system, what happens? What happens if he goes up with a fully cooked script and with some idea of directing and working towards a particular thing other than trying to get, more comfortable and memorizing and that kind of stuff. So he went up and did this funeral bit that we've been working on. I met with him last week, and we sort of went through this because it was based on his mother-in-law, or a bit that he already does about seeing people as a casket. And he's in his 60s, so he's seen a lot of funerals, and I thought that was interesting. So we turned it into a whole thing, and it rocked. And I told him, like, this is going to work very well because he's an emotionless character, and it plays really well. Like, he's not uninteresting, he's just emotionless, like blank. So him going up and saying, what do y'all think of funerals? Just kills. And then it sort of sets the tone. You can do a lot of different things, sort of exploring that concept of funerals. That's it. So we did that. And again, it was a great session, a lot packed in. I talked a lot, which I think I got to be careful of. I want to make it active, but these issues pop up, and I want to really give people information about them. So I tend to overtalk sometimes in the lecture part. So I'm going to try to pull that back a little bit. Lastly, for August, it's going to be a full month of crowd work training. So if you're interested in crowd work, starting next Sunday, August 2nd, I think, we're going to do crowd work activities and exercises. I'm going to show you how to think in the moment. I'm going to show you all the tactics and techniques that make crowd work actually pretty easy. I'm going to show you how to do it high quality, not the sort of low quality crowd work that gets dinged so much by real stand-ups these days, which I totally understand. When you do crowd work really well, it stays really fast and really funny, and it's very impressive to the audience because they get to see it cooked. They get to see you cooking not mediocre material or predictable material, but really high quality material fast. And there are techniques to get you there. So we're going to practice that the whole month of August. So come on down. See us soon at the Stand-Up Accelerator.